This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 1794. I'll figure out what I want to be when I grow up, by Mr. 1500 of 1500days.com. And I'm your host and personal finance enthusiast, Diana Merriam. Now let's get right to it and start optimizing your life. I'll figure out what I want to be when I grow up, by Mr. 1500 of 1500days.com. An outsider goes inside. I've always hated to be inside. Climbing beats a day at the office at any and all times. When I was a kid, I'd spend the summers tearing around the neighborhood on my freedom machine, the bicycle. When I first started thinking about what I wanted to do when I grew up, my thought was this: there's no way I'm working at a job where I'm confined to an office. When I got a little older, I wasn't sure how reasonable it was to work outside, so I gave up on that. Like 98% of boys, my next thought was this: planes! I want to be a pilot! How do I get to fly an F-16? Later, someone told me that you needed perfect eyesight to fly, so I dismissed my F-16 dreams. In high school, I still had no clue about what I wanted to do. The only thing I did know was that I liked science, so I took biology, chemistry, and physics classes. By the time I got to college, I still had no idea what I wanted to be. I liked writing, but the job prospects for journalism weren't good. I knew that I'd have to take out loans to go to university, and I wasn't willing to take on loads of debt for an uncertain career. What to do? I still liked science, so I studied biology at Northern Illinois University. 4 years later, I graduated and still had no idea what I wanted to do. So I enrolled in a Doctor of Pharmacy program at the University of Illinois at Chicago. About halfway through my first year at pharmacy school, I realized that working as a pharmacist would not make me happy. I was telling my roommate about my dilemma, and he said something like this: have you considered programming? If you like solving puzzles, you should give it a try. DePaul has a programming certificate program that's only 30 weeks long, and you can get a good job once you complete it. I thought about this for about 30 minutes and decided to finish up my year at pharmacy school and then enroll in the computer program. At the time, for whatever reason, this didn't make me nervous at all, even though my family thought I was crazy. Looking back, it was a bit reckless. I was giving up a high-paying pharmacy career for an unknown, but it turned out to be one of the best decisions that I ever made. I love coding. Figuring out how to make computers implement the requirements of business people is great fun. And looking back, perhaps the most amazing part was this: the kid who swore he could never find happiness working inside now found happiness sitting in a cubicle for 9 hours per day. I think that there's an important lesson in here, and it's this: you're never really sure what will make you happy. And now I've left my formal career, but I still write code. My next goal is to either learn Python or Swift. My other unexpected career. I started this silly blog on a whim back on January 1st of 2013. I was having lots of stress at my job, so I Googled something like, how do I retire early? I discovered Mr. Money Mustache, and the following happened in the course of less than an hour. Number 1, disbelief. This guy claims that he retired in his early 30s. Bull. This is fake, and/or this dude is trying to sell something. Fortunately, I kept reading. Number 2, acceptance. This mustache guy lives on $24,000 per year. According to the 4% rule, he only needed $600,000 to quit his job. Anonymous people on the internet may lie, but numbers don't. I don't want to live on $24,000 a year, but this early retirement thing is doable. Maybe this mustache guy isn't full of it after all. And number 3, onward. I'm turning violently onto early retirement avenue, and I'm pushing the pedal to the metal. And I'm going to start a blog to document my journey. I never thought anyone would read anything I had to say. However, people did start reading it, and writing has been even more fun than I expected. While the blog makes some money now, for the first 3 years, readers were scant and it made about $100. I didn't care because I was doing it for the joy of writing, and it still continues to bring me happiness. My original plan was to end the blog at 1,500 days. I had even written my final post. As day 1,500 got closer, the idea of killing the blog was also killing me. I was having too much fun, so I decided to press on. And in a strange twist, something went wrong with either the blogging platform or the website's host, and the draft of my last post disappeared. If there was ever a sign to continue, that was it. But the time will come when I'll get bored of writing, or some other project will come along that's more interesting and I'll move on. Open book. What career? I think life is much more fun when the future is uncertain. Think about it this way. Which is better? For the next 2 decades, I will work at a job for 40,000 hours and then retire. Hopefully, I'm still in reasonable health. Or, who knows? I'll go where opportunities and passions take me. Someone asked me recently what my career was. I had to think a bit. This is the definition of career: an occupation undertaken for a significant period of a person's life and with opportunities for progress. I almost made it 20 years in computers. That was a long time, but maybe not long enough to call it a career. I'll figure out a career when I grow up, which will most likely be never. You just listened to the post titled, "I'll Figure Out What I Want to Be When I Grow Up," by Mr. 1500 of 1500days.com. It's a bit humbling to realize that you might not be very good at figuring out what you want and what would make you happy. I have so many examples of this. I used to think I wanted to sing in a band and live nomadically and do stand-up comedy and on and on and on. But then I did all of those things and realized that it wasn't what I wanted. I'm super happy that I tried though, because too many people tell themselves elaborate stories about what they want to do someday, and they never do those things or even test those assumptions of what they think they want. That, my friends, leads to a life of regret, and ain't nobody got time for that. This article reminded me of an awesome Cal Newport book called So Good They Can't Ignore You. He encourages people not to follow their passion, not because they might be wrong about what they think their passion is, but because research shows that following your passion doesn't align with what makes people most happy in their careers. Professional happiness comes from following what you're good at and achieving a level of mastery. You also need to have autonomy over what you work on and how. Working with people you like and trust and having a meaningful impact are also key to getting satisfaction out of your career. Your career is an incredible tool on your path to financial independence, and work comprises a large majority of our time. I think it's super important that we enjoy our work. So maybe we need to ask ourselves some hard questions about what we think we want. And that's another edition of Optimal Finance Daily in the books. Have a great rest of your weekend if you're listening in real time, and I'll be back tomorrow where your optimal life awaits.